Well, here we are, and somehow the record button didn't trigger, so I've gotten about halfway down. Anyway, here we. It's this is the next day, so I am doing this uh, one day after another, which the daily practice is what I was aiming for. Had some minor health problems, nothing to worry about. Just the not feeling wellnesses we can all get, and I let life get in the way a little bit, of these kind of daily practices. And really, it's kind of meditative and also just as a skill. It's just a few minutes out of our day, out of my day, 20 minutes to take the time to do it. A small victory, in a really small confined area. So anyway, uh, I'm going to forgive myself that I've already done about half the page. I'll go ahead and do it over, just because you're here too, and you don't need to be subjected to that. We're doing the second join with a diagonal line blending into a swing up stroke. So the whole thing with this species of stroke, and again, we don't have to memorize it, but they just break it down so you're practicing specific skills. That actually makes it easier on you. Uh, we're starting with these small serifs there, or the low serifs, and we're going into things that have an upstroke. That the serif goes into the upstroke. Your U starts there, your Y and so forth, and I's and E's are all starting with that upstroke. So that's what we're actually working on. I hope everybody is doing well. Again, making that A that's kind of that sort of has that nice dramatic oval going to it into the Y that's a descender. You notice how fast? Well, you can't notice because I did half a page, but falling out of the talking into the different mindset. Well, if you get me to stop talking, that's pretty good, huh? But I do want to talk. Give you somebody to listen to while you do your exercises. Um, Neat thing about these H's I got to remember is kind of has that same dramatic hump. It's not that stick and ball, just straight H and then into that Y. Now, one thing I think to watch out for though is coming your serif from the bottom there. You want smooth up into it, into that upstroke. You don't want to put a point on the bottom of it, which I did. And interesting when you do this cursive, and you might remember that from school cursive, if you took that, is sometimes you're on a flow and it's like, well, when do I stop and get back and dot my I's and cross my T's? And sometimes you can have long, long flows. Like, I got to get back there, which I suppose, you know, the term, I mean, we all get it that it's a detail, dot your I's and cross your T's, making sure that that is done. And sure, but, in print, it kind of happens right there, right? But with cursive, it doesn't. So I do wonder if cursive led. Now, notice that my note there was that is a little more stick and ball than I would like to do. But I wonder if the dot your I's and cross the T's is especially relevant because cursive, you can go on a long flow and then you have to go back to grab it. And maybe if the flow is too long or you're moving along at a pretty good rate, things are just going, that you neglect to break flow and get back there and take care of that. Put a double there. I think I like the jot better than the dot. Well, I think the thing about a dot is it can be so small that mine turn into jots automatically. K, the looped K. I do like the looped K. Notice they have a jot there, looped K. But again, coming down, I'm not putting a point on it, but I am making it a pretty good diagonal and not just a rampy loopy. The rampy loopy you can see like there, got a little rampy. Is that a U or is that an I? No, Y. That didn't come off as crisply as say theirs did. So something to watch for. See how they kind of really make it a little more linear until you hit the other letter. so that it's clearly the join and not a loop or hump or something in the letter itself. Uh, but that's that clarity. That's that, and I think that's where a lot of the handwriting uh, practice comes in terms of what skills are valuable and or at least for clear, not valuable, but lead to clarity. And I think a lot of it is very intentional letter join. I think it's easy, well, especially with a flowing style like a cursive, it's easy to get into the habit of letting that slop creep in, and then that's when you get that loop, 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 loop mush that I think we all went, oh, my cursive handwriting's terrible, from that kind of round hand type of system. But we don't have to do that. And it's just something we can work on. That didn't go up. That's what that needed to do. I kind of like that little tail. I mean, it's not really what I meant to do. But I do have to watch out for, because adding fancies at this point isn't really the way to go. We don't want to get Baroque with it yet, or ever necessarily. Sometimes just a nice, tight, clean hand. It's like in architectural drafting. I think I mentioned that before. Where there's a house hand, and sometimes only a couple of the guys in a firm can do the house hand, and it's architectural drawing and stuff. So it's very, it tends to be more sparse. It's not overly ornamented. It just looks good, clean. I'm not very clean. That's something I'd like to work on. That is me getting down on myself. I mean, these other things, I want to lay the concern to rest. Like when I, go like, oh, I did that badness and that and that. Um, that's because this is a practice space, and these words and these letters and these combinations don't matter. They're not going anywhere. Nobody's going to read them. They're not. I'm not really, except for you guys, and we're practicing together. Um, Nobody sees it, and there's no information that this writing itself is trying to convey, or no display. Um, so this is a time to make a mistake, and also a time to, I can be, when I say critical, I can critique myself and go, oh, I should watch out for that. That's something to watch out for. So I find it an improvement opportunity, not a judgment on worth, when I just talk about the individual little parts of the letters. But I got to watch, like everybody else, though. I've got that critical inner voice, and so I have to watch when I say my handwriting isn't neat, or these larger value judgments. And it's like, oh, I made a C that's not as circular as I'd want it to be, or right here, like, I initially, oh, the spacing seems real tight to me, and it's like, well, it's not that different than there. Um, no, and I kind of like that little turn there, but I can note that because that's just something for me to watch for later, right? Uh, and so I'm practicing mindfully, but I do have to watch me turning. So I just wanted to lay the fears to rest that that part was negative talk, which I do have to watch. But that's the puzzle, one self coaching. You look at things that you would do differently, uh, like dive debriefs are kind of like that. It's like it's not what went right, what went wrong. It's had one dive safety officer. It's like what went right, what would you do differently next time? What would you do differently? So it doesn't frame it as so bad, bad, bad. Okay, still on upstrokes. Who, that can just create that, that like spelling banana, B-A-N-N-A-N-A-N-A. Where do the N's and the A stop? Same thing with the humps on the M, and especially of M and N, you're just making a sea of humps. And so make that transition kind of crisp. That was maybe a little bit overdone. But look how crisp that is on the I, the serif on the I. And I think again that kind of hump that isn't just a loop, that it's the radius changes, the radius decreases there, is part of the clarity of that. And that's the thing about, I think about a decent amount of this portion of the handwriting as we move into cursive is making very intentional. That's my Z, but making then my serif, my connector, my join has got to be intentional. I'm not going to make it severe or sharp, but intentional. P A, again, that oval I think keeps it from just becoming a circle. It's demushification. I think sometimes just doing the loopy mushies and expecting context to work it out. It's like when people, oh, see this, I got to go back and jot. Is when people kind of start shorthanding, well, you know what I mean. It's like, no, actually, I don't. I don't know what you mean. So if you could just tell me, that would be, whoops. That's me probably getting upset internally. It's like, no, I don't actually know what you mean. And if I did, you really probably wouldn't need to tell me. That's where I'm not. One thing about some of these, as you come into an upstroke, you're having to retrace your steps. And sometimes there's those misses or the loops from the retrace, which has always been one of the more challenging aspects for me, I suppose. Something that I endeavor to fix this time around. Well, I had that nystagmus. My eyes all of a sudden shift. I have to change my glasses prescription. I wear glasses. It, you know, it went from that, oh, just when I'm reading small print, to just general readers, to now I'm just more comfortable with them on all the time. Uh, ooh, peas. Oops. Look at that. I shifted lines. That's my focus issue. I get my focus issue under control. Now I'm just more comfortable with them on all the time. Yeah, so I think this is good for me too, because of the mental, like I just lost focus there. Been a problem recently, I think. I've just been run ragged. And some of the medical problems, stuff, the health problems, it's just a fatigue all the time. Working on it. Talking to doctors and stuff. And make that nice. Put that chin on that A, that Chad chin on that A. Go with that A. Now the P's are kind of interesting because you're up. You kind of come in just the way the letter does, has that little swoopy point in it. See what I did there? That's what I'm talking about. There, that's what we want. Yep, and into it. See, dot your T's and cross your I's. Yes, that was on purpose. But it's good to be back. It's good to do this daily, even though I'm feeling some time pressure. I got some things I got to go do for my health here. But taking this time, it's not that much time. Even with this start over accidentally, or the misstart. It'll take that time. This seemed like 20 as opposed to 15. That little kind of weird to have S3 because you don't really join the cat so much, do you? And go back and, ooh, I like that though. Hip is a fun word. You can go pick that jot up. not bad. I feel pretty good about that, but it had a little more on that pea. Not sure. I don't want to extend it all the way up and make kind of a strange pea with a snorkel on him. Scuba pea. You know, the old joke about wetsuits. Two kinds of people that, two kinds of divers. Those that pee in their wetsuits, those that lie. You do want to avoid it. It gets itchy and stinky and stuff. Make sure some silent uh, drives home in a van. But one thing is, if kind of especially if you're in like warm water and you're at low depth and uh, you're kind of doing recreational stuff, uh, you can go upside down and shoot air into your suit and displace the pee water. Ooh, here it is. Let's see if I can make this pretty. Okay, I think I'm trying to get too pretty. Don't get too pretty. Don't get feel like Star Wars. I got one. Great. Don't get cocky, kid. Yeah, see, I tried to get a little too pretty, I think. That's all right. Sometimes, again, that's the great thing about the practice environment. Sometimes you got to go for it. You're like, yeah, you know what? I mean, I get doctrine and stuff, and I want to practice, but it's like sometimes you got to try it. I've had coaches like that in various activities where it's like, can I try this? It's like, yeah, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Uh, but yeah, in practice, like, yeah, this is the time to see, and sometimes it's like, oh, that's why people don't do it. Okay, and then it's real solidified, as opposed to just this thing that you're just told not to do. Other advice. It seems so unkind. If you don't stop, well, you will go blind. Adamant. Stuart Goddard. Funny though, I think people don't get it. Adamant. Right? It was adamant. Two drummers often. Uh, the Ants, the original Ants, they got kind of co-opted to be Bow Wow Wow, and you had that real big tom drum sound, kind of marching, sort of. I hate to use the word tribal, but that kind of that kind of beat. Uh, doom, 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 doom. I mean, there was some. It was very tom driven, and I liked that he had two. He would use two drummers. Two drummers. I think there's a lot to it. Uh, and I am a terrible drummer. I'm not. I can. I mean, I can hit some drums and stuff, but I would not call myself a drummer by any way, shape, or form. Though I do know. I mean, I know a little bit about it. My wife does. I know plenty of drummers. Uh, I've taken some lessons. I'm terrible at it. Terrible drummer. But I like the sound. So it's not just because I'm centered on drums, but I think it's kind of neat because with two drums, not just a bigger sound, but you also are not just in an area where you're just doing fancy metronome stuff, metronomics. Where it's like, oh, you just keep the beat, you keep the time. You There's a lot more going on, uh, tonally and changing the mood. Even when you're playing um, in sync. But the neat thing is if you kind of divide up parts of the beat, parts of the rhythm between drums, that can be a really neat thing because then you kind of lock in. But it's uh, two people, two kind of visions of it that have to come together. Or sometimes it's somebody is sort of the metronome is keeping the foundation, and the other person's accenting over that. It can counterpoint to the main beat, so that's cool too. So there's a lot in that. There's a lot in that. I think that's the thing. All this stuff gets back to aesthetics, and you start appreciating just the aesthetics of the world. Stuff just becomes more interesting. Soon I discovered this rock thing was true. Jerry Lee Lewis was the devil. Jesus was a carpenter. What was it? Prior to his career as a prophet. Uh, Jesus built my hot rod. Wow, I am exposing my Gen Xiness. That, okay, see that? Notice I joined at the bottom and up swept into it, but I joined from the very bottom, almost a U. So that did not work. Uh, better, better, but not, you know, nope, let it go. Better. That's all I'm going for. Okay, that could get weirdly critical. Okay, got some work to do there. No worries. No worries. All right, all right, all right. Also, not happy with that. That turned into I don't know what. So even that, so you just have to be careful. Joining that dot wasn't a good idea. But again, just this is where we can do that. This is where we can screw that up all we want. Try things. Interesting how that's almost a line there. So it may be, I'll have to look as if that's kind of one of those heights like the shoulder height, the letters. I'm not sure about that yet. That may change, but it is an interesting feature. Because, I mean, I think that's the thing a lot of times, with the way the letters are formed and the variations on just a few different strokes with the loops and things, we may have some more of that than I realized. Huh. I guess just doing a little refresh set there with that capital U in there. A little bit long today, huh? Sorry, and a little over 22, a little over 20 minutes, but yeah, I'm gonna take the time today. So this is a little bit of a longer day. If you need to stop and do this in two sections, do that. You know, you don't even have to watch me the whole time. You can do it at your own rate. I give you permission as Grand Poobah of handwriting, who had nothing to do with the authorship of this book. I'd like to talk to these ladies sometime, though. Just ask them some questions. Whoop. See, I was just talking about that. I didn't do it. It makes me a bad person. Yeah, and see that. Yeah, okay, that's some interesting things. That's more interesting for me. That's I can work with that. I'm going to be able to work with that. A little bit more turn-in than I think I need, but not terrible. That was an interesting one. A little worried about time. I got to go do some medical stuff here in a minute. But don't rush. Don't let it get in the way. Right. That's something I've got to watch out for. That's when that I lose focus because other parts of life are calling. Don't. You want simplify the task. Do one task. Something I'm necessarily good at, but I'm learning. Nope. See, now that may be a little negative talking there. Ooh, we're getting into. How do you like that? It's handwriting, and you get to hear about my neuroses. That's two shows in one. Gotta go back and dot my I's. Ooh, is he gonna do it? Is he a rebel? He's a rebel. Alone or Dottie, a rebel. Okay, that's a little rushed, not because of time, but I am feeling that right there. Whew. Now that, however, the cramping. I wonder if that is part time based. I would like to get that. I would like to get that. Uh, I'm okay with it. Not perfect, but I'm okay. The N and the H, I'm okay with that. Small victories. Ooh, I into N, into H. Oh, you have a small victory, and am I going to do it again? Yeah. No, no, I don't like that as much. See how that doesn't tie in the way that does into that flow. Uh, but you can read it. So that's good. Well, 25 minutes, so a little bit over, but some of it's me yakking, but I appreciate the time. And that felt good. That felt good even with all the mistakes and the misstep of starting over. Have a great day.